Hey guys, welcome back to another Realm video, and today I got a quick little guide / discussion video on how to stop dying. Okay, so during my live streams I often get viewers, they ask me what are some easy ways to survive, so you can max your characters and keep them maxed, especially for those who don't have access to a good pet. Yes, I do believe that pets definitely increase your survivability by making it so that non-fatal attacks such as a few stray bullets and such can be regenerated very quickly, but ultimately I stand by my viewpoint that pets are not the be-all end-all when it comes to Realm. Believe it or not, even with the max level 100 heal and magic heal pet, it is still possible to die. I know, shocker, but it is. See, most of the time, player deaths come from just taking way too much damage in a short period of time, basically getting bursted. Usually if you see your health bar dropping rapidly, your first thought is to nexus. So 9 times out of 10, whenever you die, it happens very quickly with little to no time to react, and divine pets don't compensate for carelessness. With that out of the way, let me show you my favorite tips for surviving in Realm. Number 1. Learn how to dodge. This is a meme as old as Realm's conception with the whole just dodge lel, but in all seriousness, that's actually what you have to do. You'd be surprised to see a lot of players who legitimately do not know how certain dungeons work. Someone I talked to, even after doing 50 fungal caverns, straight up told me he didn't know how to do the dungeon. He didn't know the shot patterns, he didn't know what the enemies did, none of that. He would just follow the raid leader and such. This tendency permeates almost every single major raid group Discord in the game. Mind you, I fully believe that these Discords are a boon for the community. Players coordinating to offer the entire population ease of access into these dungeons, it creates organized raid parties and makes these runs safer to undertake. But because of how trivial the difficulty of these dungeons has become through these raid Discords, the player base in my opinion has become over-reliant on them without actually putting in the effort themselves to learn the ins and outs of the dungeon without aid of a large group. See, raid leaders are necessary to guide the group through the dungeon without any players being left behind or causing unnecessary chaos. Their main purpose is to establish order within each dungeon. Keyword order. It is the individual raider's prerogative to focus on their own surroundings and their own objectives. Understanding what you yourself should be doing is a responsibility that does not fall on anyone else. In other words, study every single dungeon that you find yourself struggling to deal with. Whether it's Lost Halls, the Shatters, Fungal Cavern, Lair of Draconis, heck, even the Wine Cellar. Take some time to actually study the shot patterns. Look up on Realmite to see what each attack does, how much damage, what effects, figure out the boss patterns. Sure, you can just have the raid leader direct the group by calling out patterns and phases, but it definitely benefits you to understand those phases yourself so you can use them as more of a convenience than a crutch. Unfortunately, a lot of players use them as the latter. You'll often see that I mute the raid leader whenever I go into these dungeons, more so that I can just talk to the stream without having someone yammer nonstop, but it's also just because I don't need to rely on a raid leader to get through the dungeons. I know every single one by heart. I just deeply enjoy learning how to get better at a game, so whenever I undertake something new, I learn as much as I can about it. But that's not really something that you find other players really considering. In fact, usually if you tell someone just dodge, they're gonna take it as like, oh, you suck at the game or something like that, but really, that is what it is. You have to just learn how to dodge. Number 2, there is no shame in nexusing early. I find it fascinating that so many players believe that whatever drops they can potentially get from a dungeon, which means they can also get 0, are more valuable than their character's own lives. Some of you may know this concept called the sunk cost fallacy, where people believe that just because they've already invested so much time and or money into something that they feel like they need to see it all the way through and face unnecessarily more risk and more potential loss than just, folding your hand and trying again. Understand that it's perfectly fine to nexus. This is a mantra I tell myself all the time. White bags are nice, but my character is probably nicer. In fact, my character is always nicer. You have to know that Realm of the Mad God is similar to real life in that there are no do-overs. If your character dies, it's gone. There's nothing you can do to bring it back. It doesn't matter if it died by lag, because someone dragged on you, because you got one-shotted, it is gone. You have to treat each character like it's the last one you'll ever have. Someone asked me why I play so safe in Nexus even when I'm at full HP despite having more than enough backup characters and equipment. Well, that's how I got so many backups and characters and equipment. I mean, I paid for the character slots, but you get what I mean. It doesn't matter how rich or poor you are in the game, each character is important. If a player with over 50 characters values every single one of them, then those of you who have only 1 or 2 should protect that character like it's your own child. I know some of you might be going, but I'm at the last phase of the boss. I can make it. I'm this far in, might as well see it through. Yeah, you probably can, but there's also a chance you can probably die. It's fine to take risks, but I see a lot of players die. A lot of stupid deaths just because they were too greedy and didn't want to lose a potential white bag. Well, guess what? Now you lost an entire character and have to spend way more time trying to recover your stuff and max it again than if you were to just nexus. It's all about managing your risk. If you're in a situation where your gut is telling you, hey, Not really feeling good about this. Then trust it and nexus. I know it stings to have spent all that time getting to the very end of the dungeon only to have to leave, but remember, we're trying to grow your account to get your characters good equipment, better stats and all that. None of that matters if it dies. The longer your character survives, the more chances you have of getting the drops that you want, the more fame it gets, and remember, the more fame you have, the more you can feed your pet, and the more you can feed your pet, the closer you can get it to divine. I was able to grow my account to the number of max characters I have because when I first played the game, I treated every single one like it was my last. That meant if I had to nexus even at full HP because I felt like I was in trouble, so be it. This goes especially to those who don't have many character slots. I understand not everyone can purchase as many character slots as they want, but that's all the more reason to value each and every character that you have because you don't have backups to work with. Number 3. Be aware of your surroundings at all times. Until you are so good at the game that you can do every single dungeon with your eyes closed, cut off any and all distractions. No texting, no alt-tabbing, no reading Reddit, no watching YouTube on your second monitor, no eating, none of that. I had a viewer on my stream who died because he was eating mac and cheese and didn't notice someone attacking his character. Take responsibility for your own actions and your own awareness. Remember that if you die, that is no one else's fault but yours. During organized raids, I see so many players get shredded because they weren't paying attention, and then they just blame the raid leader for not calling out the incoming danger, or they blame the priest or the paladin for not marble sealing. You can't rely on them to call every single thing out. You can't always rely on your party members. This is a public raid, not a friend group where each member knows exactly what they have to do. Everyone's human, they make mistakes. Even if you're sitting at Marble Colossus waiting for it to activate and a spooky boy and 3 crusades come in without anyone knowing, you should be paying attention to notice that. Don't just sit and wait for someone to call out Crusade or Spooky in the chat. Hold yourself accountable during every single run. Even if it comes out of nowhere, you should have the presence of mind to quickly react to the situation and decide if you can stay or if you have to leave. More often than not, you should leave. Accidents and surprises can and will happen. Someone might drag an entire army of ice adepts on you in the shatters, but the onus falls on you to be ready for it. It's not the priest's fault, it's not the mystic's fault, it's not the trickster's fault. If you die, that is on you. It's their job to make sure the run goes smoothly, not to make sure you stay alive. If, like, the trickster fails to decoy enemies or a mystic doesn't stasis anything, then they're at fault for making the run more dangerous than it needs to be, but they are not responsible for the loss of your character's life. You had all the power in the world to press the R key, or whatever your nexus key is. There is no debuff, no status effect, nothing that prevents you from nexusing. It is your responsibility. It does not matter how strong your gear is, whether you have tier 5 equips or endgame white backs. There's no substitute for a player's awareness. That is what I love about Realm. It's not like other games where once you get the best gear in the game, you can just face tank everything and basically be invincible. Even the best players with the best equipment and the best pet can still die if they're not paying attention. In fact, just by staying alert, you're probably better than like 90% of the player base. So many people die because they're not paying attention to what's going on around them, either because they're distracted by something else or they're just hoping the raid leaders will call it out. Treat Realm of the Mad God like you're driving a car. Always be aware of your surroundings. You'll run into BS that's completely out of your control. That's just how life is. But it's your responsibility to take care of yourself and prepare to handle any and all contingencies. Number 4. Learn from each death. If you find yourself dying to the same thing over and over again, like if you died to Oryx 2 or if you die in Marble Colossus or in the Cultist Hideout, analyze what part of that dungeon is giving you so much trouble. Don't just start a brand new character in autopilot. Actively think about what happened and what you did wrong so that you don't make the same mistake again. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Realm is not as hard a game as you think. Bad habits form all the time in video games. Maybe your problem is that you're too careless and you don't position well. Maybe your problem is that you take unnecessary risks and don't nexus when you really should. Another example could be that you overestimate your character's defense and think you could survive a fatal barrage when you can't. So on and so forth. Pinpoint each and every reason why you die and see if there are any recurring deaths that you can phase out so you don't die as frequently. Number 5. Be patient. This last tip, it's a pretty simple one. Just have patience. It's okay to take things slow. Nothing is funnier than seeing a player charge through Oryx Castle or a fungal cavern only to run headfirst into a giant wall of death and get destroyed. Playing safe is obviously the most straightforward way to survive longer. If you don't put yourself in dangerous situations, then you won't die as much. Simple as that. This also goes for people who like to rush dungeons. It is still possible to exercise patience and safe play when rushing on a rogue, ninja, trickster, warrior, what have you. There's a safe way to rush and a dangerous way to rush. Some of the best rushes in the game have equal parts good awareness and patience. If you have to run through a dungeon super slowly to make sure you don't die, that's perfectly fine. I guarantee you, the extra time you spend making sure you complete the dungeon without risking your character dying is way less than the time it takes to rebuild if you do die. Even to this day, I play pretty patiently. I would much rather spend 5 extra minutes running a dungeon than 50 hours trying to max my warrior again. Anyway, that about wraps it up for this video. Hope it was insightful to those who needed it and entertaining to those who wanted it. There's a bunch of other tips I wish I could talk about, but these are sort of the main ones you should keep in mind. Ultimately, it just comes down to the right mentality. If you're impatient, distracted, and lack understanding of the value of each character, then of course, you're not going to last very long. But if you're tempered, focused, and you take every character in every dungeon seriously, then you will be better set for success. No matter what situations are thrown at you, whether you're lagging, whether someone dragged on you, or whether the priest didn't parry your debuffs, it all comes down to how well you are mentally prepared for them. And just remember that death is part of the game. Even the best players die here and there to freak accidents. That's just how it is. The sooner you accept that sometimes no matter how prepared you are, your character can still die, the more fun you'll have with the game. Don't let it get to you too hard. It's okay to get upset from a character death. You spend a lot of time and energy on it. You deserve to at least go through the frustrations. But it's important to move on and start again. If you rage quit and complain the game is too hard or unfair, that's not going to make you a better player. Buckling down and trying again is what will. If you enjoyed, a rating would be much appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more content. I also hope you can check out my Minecraft and League of Legends content as well if you're interested, but for now, that's gonna be it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon in the next video. Take care.